Alright, so in this problem, I have 4 to the power of x plus 4 to the power of x plus 4 to the power of x is equal to 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out 4 to the power of x. So now I have 4 to the power of x times 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 1. Now, if I simplify what's in the parentheses here, I get 4. So now I have 4 to the power of x times 4 is equal to 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these two. So 4 here, this is the same thing as 4 to the power of 1. If I have something in the form a to the power of m times a to the power of n, this is equal to a to the power of m plus n. So in this case, 4 to the power of x times 4 to the power of 1, that's going to equal 4 to the power of x plus 1. And this is equal to 1. So now 1 here, this is the same thing as 4 to the power of 0. So now I have 4 to the power of x plus 1 is equal to 4 to the power of 0. And if I have something in the form a to the power of m is equal to a to the power of n, this means that m is equal to n. So in this case, x plus 1 here is equal to 0. Meaning x is equal to -1. Now, another method we could have done here is, as you see here, we have 4 to the power of x right here, we have 4 to the power of x times 4 is equal to 1. So, what we could have done instead here is divide both sides by 4. So now, I have 4 to the power of x is equal to 1/4, which is the same thing as 4 to the power of -1. So now, remember, if something is in the form a to the power of m is equal to a to the power of n, that means that this is equal to this, meaning x is equal to -1. Alright, so in this problem, I have 2 to the power of x minus 2 to the power of y is equal to 120. So just looking at this problem, we can see that x is going to be greater than y. And this is because if x were less than y, then this would result in this here equaling a negative number. But because x is greater than y, this is why it's going to equal a positive number. Meaning if x is greater than y, then x is going to equal y plus some number k. So k is a constant. So now, if I go ahead and replace x with y plus k, I get 2 to the power of y plus k minus 2 to the power of y is equal to 120. Now, if I have something in the form a to the power of m plus n, this is equal to a to the power of m times a to the power of n. So 2 to the power of y plus k, and we write that as 2 to the power of y times 2 to the power of k. Now I have this minus 2 to the power of y is equal to 120. Now if I factor out 2 to the power of y, I get 2 to the power of y times 2 to the power of k minus 1 is equal to 120. So now this gives me two equations. I have 2 to the power of, or sorry, before that actually, 120, I can go ahead and rewrite as 8 times 15. So now, as you see, this is going to give me two equations. We can think of 2 to the power of y as 8, and 2 to the power of k minus 1 as 15. Because 2 to the power of y, this is going to be an even number, right? 2 to the power of any number is an even number. And 2 to the power of k minus 1, well, 2 to the power of k, that's an even number, and an even number minus 1, that's going to be an odd number. So notice how this is in the form a number times a number is equal to number times a number, meaning this number is going to equal this number, and this number is equal to this number. So now I have 2 to the power of y is equal to 8, and 2 to the power of k minus 1 is equal to 15. So for 2 to the power of y equals 8, y is going to equal 3, because 2 to the power of 3 is 8. So that's our solution for y. And for 2 to the power of k minus 1, add 1 on both sides. I get 2 to the power of k is equal to 16, meaning k is 4. So now that we have our value for y and k, remember x is equal to k plus y, meaning x equals 4 plus 3, which is 7. So these are my solutions. Alright, so in this problem, I have x to the power of 4 is equal to x minus 1 to the power of 4. So to solve this, I'm going to first start by subtracting x minus 1 to the power of 4 on both sides. So then these two cancel out, and now I have x to the power of 4 minus x minus 1 to the power of 4 is equal to 0. Now, x to the power of 4, that's the same thing as x squared to the power of 2. And x minus 1 to the power of 4, that's the same thing as x minus 1 squared to the power of 2. So now this is equal to 0. Now, if I have something in the form a squared minus b squared, this is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So in this case, a is x squared, and b is x minus 1 squared. So now I have x squared plus x minus 1 squared times x squared minus x minus 1 squared. This is equal to 0. Now, x minus 1 squared, let's go ahead and expand that. That's going to equal x squared minus 2x plus 1. So I have x squared plus x squared minus 2x plus 1 times x squared minus x squared plus 2x minus 1. Because remember, you got to distribute the negative sign. And this is equal to 0. So now, let's go ahead and simplify this. X squared plus x squared is 2x squared. So I have 2x squared minus 2x plus 1 times x squared cancel out. So just 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. So now this gives me two equations. I have 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. And I have 2x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So for 2x minus 1 equals 0, x is simply equal to 1/2. That's a simple equation. And now for 2x squared minus 2x plus 1, we're going to use the quadratic formula, which is negative b. So negative of negative 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared negative 2 squared, which is 4, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 1. And all of this over 2a, so 2 times 2, which is 4. And now this is the same thing as positive 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 8 is negative 4 over 4. And as you can see, we have the square root of a negative number, which we can't do. So my only solution here is x equals 1/2. So x equals 1/2 is my answer.
Alright, so in this video, I'm going to solve the equation x to the power of 12 minus 1 is equal to 0. So to solve this, I'm going to first rewrite this as x to the power of 6 to the power of 2 minus 1 squared is equal to 0. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can use the property a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So this turns into x to the power of 6 plus 1 times x to the power of 6 minus 1 is equal to 0. So this gives me two equations. I get x to the power of 6 plus 1 equals 0, and x to the power of 6 minus 1 equals 0. Now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to rewrite x to the power of 6 minus 1 equals 0 as x to the power of 3 to the power of 2 minus 1 squared is equal to 0. So I can use this property again and get x to the power of 3 plus 1 times x to the power of 3 minus 1 is equal to 0. Now, for x to the power of 3 minus 1 equals 0, I'm going to rewrite this as x to the power of 3 minus 1 to the power of 3 equals 0, so I can use the property a to the power of 3 minus b to the power of 3 is equal to a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So this turns into a minus b times a squared plus a plus 1 is equal to 0. Sorry, this turns into x minus 1 times x squared plus x plus 1 is equal to 0, which gives me yet another two equations. So now I have x minus 1 equals 0 and x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. So for x minus 1 equals 0, all I have to do is add 1 on both sides, and I get x is equal to 1. And for x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0, I can use the quadratic formula. So by using it, I get x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 3i over 2. So these are two more solutions. And now we aren't done yet because we also have to solve these. So now I have x to the power of 3 plus 1 is equal to 0. And I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides, so I get x to the power of 3 is equal to negative 1, meaning x is also equal to negative 1. So this is another solution. Now for x to the power of 6 plus 1 equals 0, I'm going to again subtract 1 on both sides. So I get x to the power of 6 is equal to negative 1. And if I take the 6th root, I get x is equal to 6th root of negative 1, which is equal to negative 1 to the power of 1 over 6. So now, the 6th root of negative 1 is, say, we know that I is equal to the square root of negative 1, which is equal to negative 1 to the power of 1/2. So negative 1 to the power of 1 over 6 is the same thing as negative 1 to the power of 1/2 minus something. So now 1 over 6, or I should say 1/2 minus 1 over 6 is equal to 1 over 3. So 1 over 6 plus 1 over 3 is equal to 1/2. We know this, meaning we have negative 1 to the power of 1 over 6 and this plus, or sorry, 1 over 2 minus 1 over 3 is what we can rewrite 1 over 6 as. Now, this is the same thing as 1/2 plus negative 1 over 3. And if I have something in the form a to the power of m plus n, this is equal to a to the power of m times a to the power of n. So this is going to equal negative 1 to the power of 1/2 times negative 1 to the power of negative 1 over 3. Negative 1 to the power of 1/2 is the square root of negative 1, which is equal to I. So we get I times negative 1 to the power of negative 1 over 3, which is the same thing as 1 over negative 1 to the power of 1 over 3, which is equal to negative 1. So I get I times negative 1, which is equal to negative I, which is my final solution.